Hi, my name is Rachael Knight, and today I'm going to talk about drafting community bylaws for good governance of lands and natural resources. So bylaws are the rules that a community makes and then adopts about how they would like to govern their lands and manage their natural resources for the future. And this process is an extraordinary process because sometimes it's the first time in history where a community has sat together and thought about all their rules, their ancestors' rules, and figuring out what rules they need for how they can prosper and grow according to their own ideas about what is best for them as they proceed into the future. What we've seen is that when communities sit together and spend months debating their rules, they often decide how they want to strengthen women's rights, and they create really extraordinary rules to make sure women's rights are protected, not within families and by the whole community. They often create rules that ensure that their natural resources are going to be conserved and also regenerated, and to make them even more flourishing for the future. They often create rules to hold their leaders accountable and make sure their leaders don't do corrupt backroom deals with investors, and a whole host of other positive impacts. The process sometimes takes anywhere from 3 months to 10 months, depending on how quickly a community wants to go and how many meetings they want to have. At the first meeting, the facilitators will go in and start by asking the community, why is it important to draft bylaws? And this is an amazing process of the community members sitting together and critically thinking, well, we need systems, we need rules, so that if an investor comes, we know how to manage the process, we know how to hold our leaders accountable, we know how to demand FPIC, this is how we're going to address it. Or systems, if someone within the community tries to grab more land than is their right, here are our ways we're going to deal with it. After the community has drafted its own list of why bylaws are important, step 2 is to sit down and do a quick shouting out brainstorm of the first draft. And this draft is all of the community's current rules and all of the rules their ancestors practiced in the past. So we break this into 3 steps: rules for the management of lands and natural resources, rules for the governance of land, and then also social and cultural rules. And people will just shout out, and it takes about 2 to 3 hours, and you're just writing down all the rules. And at the end of the process, you leave the rules with the community and you say, this is your first draft. Let's make a plan to go through the rules slowly, and add rules that are missing, take away rules that go against the national constitution or human rights, and modify rules that need updating. The third step, that's the one that takes a long time. The community will sit and break down their rules into topics. Who is a member of the community? What are women's rights? How do we want to take care of our forest? How do we want to take care of our water? What should we do if an investor arrives seeking land? What kind of leadership do we want to put in place? How diverse should our leadership be? How will we elect them, etc.? So this is a really deep democracy process of sitting and debating rule by rule how the community wants to govern itself. At the end of this process, which may take a very long time depending on how many meetings the community wants, it could take 10 meetings, it could take 3 meetings, the community will make a second draft. Then the facilitating organization will either bring that second draft of the bylaws to a lawyer or a judge to check that it doesn't go against national laws, the national constitution, and human rights law, or they can bring the judge or the lawyer to the community to do the check with the community. After the judge or the lawyer has checked the rules, the community needs to make any changes to make sure their rules align with national and international law, and that is the end of the 4th step. It's the 3rd draft. The 5th step is the community creates its own big celebration and bylaws adoption ceremony. And they'll invite government leaders, they'll invite neighbors, they'll invite the media, and then they'll have a big celebration and they'll vote to adopt their bylaws, and then they'll potentially elect their new land governing council, and then they'll have a big celebration and rejoice that their very long process of drafting the rules has now come to conclusion. What we've seen over the years is we've seen an immediate impact on natural resources. We've had many reports of women actually standing up for their land rights and communities supporting that and protecting their land rights. We have seen leaders held accountable for signing bad deals with outside investors, and many other really quite astonishing impacts.